Welcome back to Digging Deeper. I went and got a tan for this one. Today, we have a very special episode, a little bit different than usual. We're going to do a secret shopper / undercover candidate of an actual fleet. Now, instead of us having a conversation like we normally do, we're going to be looking at a screen, going through someone's actual hiring process to see where the gaps are and where the areas of improvement are. Don't worry, we will anonymize everything so no one gets called out. And that's not even the point. We want to all get better and see where we can improve so that we can hire more drivers. And we're back. Today with us, we have Aaron Mowry, our VP of Strategic Accounts. All right, so what we want to talk about today is the idea of what we call a secret shopper, although I'm trying to change the name to undercover candidate because it makes more sense to me, but whatever. And we do this with a lot of our clients and prospects, and we talk about it a lot on this podcast / webinar. And so I thought it'd be cool, or actually you thought this was your idea. Why don't we actually do an undercover candidate / secret shopper live? And we'll show you kind of what that process looks like to kind of audit and what you're looking for. And then we'll actually dive into some of the results of the hundreds that we've done in the past and show you kind of the pitfalls that we run into or our clients run into when it comes to this thing.
One of the concerns you have when you do something like this is that the goal is not to pull somebody up and shame them. Look at what they're not doing well. Mm-hmm. This is just an example of what we normally do with prospective clients or current clients to identify areas for improvement. And there are times, I think we've said this on other Digging Deepers, where we have somewhat of a checklist of things we know make for a successful campaign strategy, and some of it's process. You have to have a good audience. You've got to have a compelling message that, are you competitive in the market? But the third is process. So there's this checklist that if it doesn't meet certain criteria, then I feel like it's the right thing to do to tell a potential client, I don't think we would be a good fit. Or until we talk through some of these things, I wouldn't waste your money.
Right.
So anyway, my point is, there are some things here that we're just going to use a couple of examples of what we do. Okay. And I don't want it to come across as, look at that company. And, if we find something that they're not doing well, that's really not the point here. Yeah.
The point's not to call people out. It's to show common areas of improvement across, especially in the driver recruiting industry. All right. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and launch into one. So kind of walk me through what you're going to do. And you guys, the audience, if I may address you, you'll see what we're doing on screen. We're all going to be looking at Aaron's screen together.
So Fleet A is an example. Just Googled company name there. Yep. And you can see here, apply for Fleet A. Really good job with their different options. We clicked one, brought us here, and I'll just fill this out. And we obviously are not going to go through everything that happens post submission, but we'll do this now.
Is this an alias that you have?
It is. Yes, sir. We've created quite a few of these with a Gmail account and then a Google Voice account. Right. So we can actually monitor response.
And would you recommend for our clients and prospects that they create some sort of anonymous way of auditing and secret shopping all this stuff?
Yes, and typically it should be quarterly.
Okay, because the idea is if you go in if you go in with your own information, when the lead is processed through, people are going to see, oh, this is, David Arsenault at Randall Riley. I don't need to follow up with this. So you're not getting real feedback of what happens. Little Rock. Zip code. 72002. Is there anything you're noticing as you're doing this, or is all this pretty standard?
No, this is definitely more granular than most. I'll talk through it in a second. I do think there's a fine line between zero friction and too much friction.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good mix here. And part of this is probably has to do with the recruiting department, how large they are, how effective, how many leads do they get.
Yeah.
So this is going to weed out, some folks that they just don't have time to manage.
Right.
So this is a little bit more robust than most, but I think it's good. But again, let me fill this out. And there's a couple other things I will mention. Text. All right, before I finish. So yes, no questions are fine. This is just the data we see. So CDL, yes or no. Are you 21 and with 2 years experience? We've done this too, so I don't want to sound like, pot calling the kettle black.
Yep.
It is not a best practice to include 2 questions with 1 answer.
Oh, okay.
I would separate those.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing we try to do is instead of yes, no questions there, I would rather ask the question, how old are you?
Mm-hmm.
And then how much experience do you have?
Right.
Because if they're 20 with 18 months experience, I would like to know that.
Yeah.
And then I can set a better automation schedule to follow up. You're still not going to be able to lease them on yet.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
But yes or no really gives me
nothing.
Yeah, I don't have a good database to mine.
Yep.
Same thing here. Not 1 year of experience, but how much verifiable experience.
Right.
Owner operator, step deck, flatbed. Here's something that I recommend too. First of all, this should, in my opinion, should not default to an answer.
Right.
It should be empty and required. Looks like some of these are not even required. Well, I guess this one's not. So it's not required. I think it should be required, but it should be an empty field.
Right.
Not defaulted to 7 a.m. I am going to do this on purpose. So I've requested a text, and the best time to reach me is 8 to 11 p.m.
Right.
I want to know what they're going to do. It seems difficult from a recruiting department's perspective to actually, if that's what I selected, are you actually going to do it?
Good point.
That would be impressive. And then on our end, we do not have this pre-selected. I don't know the legal behind that, so I don't want to speak to that.
Right.
I would prefer that the owner operator or the company driver consents to that themselves by checking, as opposed to it being pre-selected.
Mm-hmm.
So I did get confirmation it was submitted. Anything you want to?
No, that's good. You want confirmation that it was submitted. Would you be expecting something in your inbox already?
I would think so. I would think most. Yeah, it's kind of the default from 15 years ago that you'll get an auto reply email.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw, looks like I did. I actually got a text.
Your ability to get someone on the phone decreases by, 900% after 5 minutes?
Right.
Once the lead is submitted. So speed to lead is crucial. You have to really look to see that that's from Fleet A.
Agreed.
And you have to really look. You don't see it even in the here.
Well,
and my Gmail inbox is really cluttered.
Well, in their defense, though, I just have my Gmail connected to my Google Voice.
Right.
So this was a text.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So it really should be looked at here in my text. But still, to your point, when I get it, the only way I see that it's Fleet A is in the IntelliApp link.
Right.
Nowhere does it say Fleet A in the text, which I think it should. We all know that I think the data says a driver is going to fill out 6 to 8 short form inquiries at a time. So it's compelling. Top ops earn 300,000. It just doesn't say the company.
Right. So you've kind of given us some really good tips on what could be fixed in the early on process. Now that the lead is filled out, what are the things you're looking for?
Once we, submit something this is a little different. Our mechanic stuff, high percentage of them require resume, which we recommend not doing, but we have fake resumes on file too. So we want to see what the messaging says. If it does require a resume and I've submitted one,
right?
Is it change any of the messaging? But we're looking at post-submission contact, what's the messaging, what's the cadence, what's the mediums they use,
right?
And then I don't know if volume's the right word. What's the
cadence of contact?
So cadence would be, or maybe I'm saying it wrong. Cadence would be how many times do you try, or
what's the space between
right? What's the space between times you try?
Right. And then
volume is how many actual attempts.
How many attempts? Yeah. How many attempts? All right. How many attempts should someone make, would you say?
All of our data and, even outside data, we reference it quite a bit. A Harvard Business Review said 6 to 8.
Okay.
Over 7 to 10 days.
All right.
Our good man, Scott Maldonado, though, and I think he has a ton of empathy for people who are in the business and managing their pipeline. He has said, that may not be doable, 6 to 8 over 7 to 10 days, but can it be 3 to 4? Can it be 5?
Yeah. So obviously that kind of sets up how we would do a undercover candidate, the initial process. And you've done this with hundreds of people. What are the big pitfalls that you see in the lead follow-up process?
Fleet A. It's a good one. One of the reasons we picked it is I like that question on when's the best time to contact you and how. Mm-hmm. What we found is not a lot of people ask those, which I think more should.
Right.
The second piece is we found a lot that do ask it, don't do what the candidate asked for.
Yeah.
So I do want to see that.
Right.
Are you actually going to text me between 8 and 11?
I was talking to Zach Flippo the other day, and he was giving me some on the other side of the business, and he was saying maybe this isn't as ubiquitous on the fleet side. Don't laugh at me. I like words. But, filling out applications or short forms and then not hearing anything back, or it being a 20-day delay between filling out the lead form and then actually hearing from the company. Do you see that on the fleet side as well?
Not 20 days.
Yeah.
If that's what ubiquitous means.
It means, we'll put a definition up here.
I mean, I would assume the point is it is much more prevalent in traditional TA.
It means prevalent.
Yeah. Not as prevalent. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, on the fleet side, driver side, it is it's still scary to us that we see 48 hours.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
So
I'm going to add one other thing.
Yeah.
I do think it's valuable sometimes to do something on a Thursday afternoon.
Yes.
And see what happens there.
Okay.
Do they get to you Friday? Does anybody do anything Saturday? Once they come in on Monday, that a lot of times they're walking into a really large pile. Yeah. So what happens to those Thursday afternoon leads?
So the one you just filled out, do you think, because it's so, you got I don't even remember what it said. Did it say we'll be texting you tonight? Did it give any sort of expectation? Do you think that would have been better to have said
the specifics here?
Yeah. If it said it says your information was submitted and a representative will contact you. You selected a specific time. Should it say I think it's important that you got the confirmation and the thing in your email? Like you got the text message, but should the text message have stipulated we will be reaching out at this time tonight? Would that be better?
I mean, that's one of the things we're working on with AI.
Yeah.
Whoever is managing these types of campaigns, that is extremely difficult to have a custom confirmation page or text message based off of every form selection.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We are working on that, but yeah, you're right. It'd be awesome.
Okay.
I don't want to say we're great at that either. We're working on it.
All right. Well, what are the other pitfalls that you've seen on the fleet side of the business, on the fleet side of our business, where there's unnecessary friction or just gaps in the process?
I mean, to your point, it's still a stale, canned email with not a good subject line, or even the follow-ups sometimes are tell me what you're interested in kind of things. I'm I filled that out.
That's what the point of that. Yeah.
I told you exactly what I was interested in.
Yeah, and I think in today's world, and we already talked about this a little bit, there's so much spam that I see. I see so much spam, even in my text message, I get spam. So I think it's important to identify this is so-and-so from Fleet A, and then you could, I think the cue is to fill out your Intelli app or whatever. I think that was a bit of a miss here. I imagine that you see a lot worse misses though than that.
Yeah. And again, it was quick. Obviously this is automation. Yeah. This is not a human element, but if the call and the text comes from the same number, that's we see a huge increase in answer rate when the text says, hey, this is so-and-so, I'm about to call you. Be on the lookout for this number or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, people are on guard when it comes to spam and what's the word I'm looking for?
Phishing?
Yeah, phishing type stuff and fraud and all that sort of stuff. So anything you can do to put the ball, to make it easier for the person to recognize that it's legitimate, I think would be.
Again, and that goes back to having the name of the company in the text, because I'm scared to click on links when I get text.
Yeah, me too. And so you should be. So
anyway, to your point, after we submit these, we give it a week, and then we're building kind of the timeline of how did they reach out? How often did they reach out? What was the message when they reached out? And just kind of look at it and see what was good, what could be better, and give suggestions.
Okay.
This is something that I at least want to highlight. April 14th, so it was a week or so ago, is the last one I got. If I scroll up, I have been hit multiple times from the same number. Yep. And for some reason, Google is identifying it as spam. I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Which, again, is another reason to secret shop. If I want to know if my text messages are coming in as spam, you probably should know that. I think this is hurting some credibility here. Just worth mentioning that, it looks like drivers get this all the time. And I think it jades them.
Right. So a big sum up, if I can do a sum up real quick, this is something we do for all our clients if they let us, and maybe even if they don't let us. But we want to audit the hiring process, and we want to see what happens once you fill out a form or an application. And we also want to look at like areas where the form fields could be better, or how quickly you find the form fields. There's all these areas that you need to constantly be auditing, but the form field type stuff are easier things to audit. And I know this just personally from being in marketing. All the stuff that you create, that's really easy, but it's so important to see things from the perspective of the audience that's going to be receiving all the automated emails, text messages, what the timing on that looks like, how does it function past the lead being submitted. And the only way to do that is to, anonymously go through that stuff as if you are a driver, and so we created profiles to actually do that and look at it. And it's really important. And you're missing out on hires by not doing that, I would say. Would you agree?
I would. And I will say really quickly, it is somewhat surprising that there has not been an email come in when you talk about automation.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised. That feels like, again, it's probably the open rate's really low compared to years ago. But
if it's a bunch of different punch points making a difference, even if people don't open the email, seeing the subject line from Fleet A would make a difference in recognition and realizing, okay, they got my stuff. I know that they're looking at it. I can expect a call or a text message, whatever I ask for. I think that's a good place to stop. And we'll kick it over to the live Q&A because I hope there's a lot of questions about this, and maybe we can kind of dig into the specifics of doing an undercover candidate for your company. See you next time on Digging Deeper.